The text message glows accusingly on my screen, each word a tiny dagger. My hand trembles as I read it again, hoping somehow the words might rearrange themselves into something less cruel. We've decided to keep the wedding small and intimate. We hope you understand. Thanks again for everything. A tear splashes onto my phone, blurring Brooke's name. I wipe it away with my thumb, leaving a streak across the glass. The warm evening light filtering through my Craftsman windows casts a golden glow across my living room, all polished hardwood and carefully chosen furnishings. Everything in its proper place, everything except this ugliness now burning in my palm. Thanks again for everything, I whisper, my voice cracking in the silence. My chest tightens, and I struggle to draw a full breath. The $25,000 check for the venue deposit sits in a cream-colored envelope on my coffee table. Derek and Brooke's dream day, written in my careful handwriting across the front. I'd planned to drop it off tomorrow. I reached for the framed photo beside it, Derek and me at the lake, when I was 12 and he was 14. His arm is slung around my shoulders, both of us squinting into the sun with identical grins. I gripped the frame tightly, remembering how it felt to believe we'd always protect each other. The sharp crack of glass startles me. A thin line now runs across Derek's face, splitting his smile in two. 3 weeks ago, I sat at my parents' gleaming dining room table, surrounded by the familiar scent of my mother's pot roast as Derek and Brooke made their announcement. "We're engaged!" Derek's voice boomed as Brooke extended her hand, a modest diamond catching the light. My father immediately popped the champagne he'd clearly had waiting. My mother's eyes glistened with tears. "My baby boy," she whispered, cupping his face in her hands. Finally, the glasses were raised, the toasts made, and then came the inevitable discussion of wedding plans. "We've been looking at Crystal Ridge," Derek said casually, as if mentioning a fast food restaurant rather than the most exclusive venue in 3 counties. "It's exactly what we've always wanted." Brooke stared at her plate. "But we can't afford it," she admitted quietly. "Not after Derek's been between opportunities for so long. 2 years of unemployment. That's what between opportunities meant." The table fell silent. I saw the disappointment creeping into my mother's eyes, my father's tight smile. And something in me cracked open, that old familiar need to finally earn their approval. "I'll pay for it," I heard myself say. "The full venue deposit. Consider it my gift." The shock on their faces was almost worth it. For once, I was the center of attention at our family table. For once, Derek was hugging me like he meant it instead of the awkward pat and release I usually received. "You've always been so practical, Harper," my mother said, sounding genuinely surprised. "It's nice to see you being generous for once." For once. As if I hadn't been the one working 2 jobs through college, while Derek partied his way to a barely earned degree on our parents' dime. As if I hadn't climbed steadily through my firm, while Derek bounced between ill-conceived startups. As if my achievements, the promotion last year, the house I'd bought on my own, were footnotes while Derek's smallest efforts earned standing ovations. "He's finding himself," my mother would say whenever anyone dared mention his latest failure. I'd found myself years ago, found myself alone. The signs were there from the beginning. Wedding planning meetings I wasn't invited to. Brooke's vague answers when I asked about my role. Derek changing the subject whenever I inquired about details. The venue selection I discovered through an Instagram post rather than a conversation. But I ignored them all, kept writing checks, kept hoping. My phone buzzes with another text. Derek this time. "You just don't really match the vibe we're going for. It's nothing personal." Nothing personal. As if excluding the person paying for your wedding could ever be anything but deeply, painfully personal. I call my mother with shaking fingers. "Harper," she answers, irritation already coloring her tone. "What is it?" "Did you know?" My voice sounds strange, hollow. "Did you know they were uninviting me from the wedding?" A heavy sigh. "Don't make this about you, Harper. It's their special day." "I'm paying for their special day. Just let it go." My father's voice cuts in from the extension. "You've always been so sensitive." They hang up before I can respond. I walk to my home office, wiping tears with the back of my hand. The folder labeled Wedding Expenses sits prominently on my desk. I flip it open, staring at the contracts, vendor agreements, and receipts all bearing my name, my signature. The legal holder of every single arrangement for a wedding I'm no longer invited to attend. For the first time since reading Brooke's text, something shifts inside me. The hurt doesn't disappear, but it moves aside just enough to make room for something new. Clarity. I hold all the power, and they have no idea. My phone feels heavy in my hand as I scroll through old text messages. I need evidence that I'm not crazy, that this betrayal wasn't sudden but methodically planned. There it is, a conversation from 3 months ago. My mother's words leap from the screen. Derek thinks it might be best if you're not there. You tend to outshine him. I had brushed it off then as another of her offhand comments, the kind that land like paper, cut seemingly small but surprisingly painful. I swipe the screen, eyes burning from a night without sleep. The wedding website loads with a cheerful chime that mocks my raw nerves. Soft pastels frame Derek and Brooke's engagement photo, his arm wrapped possessively around her waist, both beaming at the camera. I scroll to our story and feel my breath catch. After years of saving and planning our dream wedding, the words blur as my vision swims. Derek and Brooke are proud to have created this special day through their own hard work and dedication. Not a single mention of my $25,000 venue deposit. Not one acknowledgement of the catering bill I paid last week. Their own hard work apparently includes cashing my checks. Instagram delivers the next blow. A series of photos appear under the hashtag Brooke's Bachelorette. There's my mother raising a champagne flute at an upscale restaurant. Brooke wearing a rhinestone tiara, surrounded by laughing women I half recognized from family gatherings. Even my cousin Melissa, who I had lunch with just 2 weeks ago, appears in several photos, her arms slung around Brooke's shoulders. No invitation had arrived for me, not even a casual mention that it was happening. I keep scrolling, masochistically cataloging each exclusion. A cake tasting at the bakery I researched and recommended. A venue walkthrough where Derek stands pointing at something while my father nods approvingly. All events I paid for but wasn't deemed worthy to attend. My email pings. A message from Crystal Ridge Events. Miss Evans. Per the groom's request, we've removed your access credentials from our planning portal. All future communications will go directly to Derek and Brooke Evans. Thank you for your understanding. Alan Martinez. Event manager. The groom's request. I say the words aloud, testing their weight. A notification appears. Brooke has accidentally shared her private wedding Pinterest board with me. I open it immediately. There, beneath a photo of bridesmaids in sage green dresses, Brooke's comment stabs deep. Thank God Harper won't be there in one of her power suits, making us look bad. Already talked to Derek about making sure she's uninvited. My phone buzzes with Derek's text. Mom and Dad agree it's better this way. My mother follows immediately. Just send the final payment and we'll handle everything. I call my father 3 times. First voicemail. Second voicemail. Third declined. The doorbell rings. Emma stands on my porch, wine bottles in each hand, concern etched across her features. You sounded terrible on the phone, she says, brushing past me. I brought reinforcements. As I show her the texts, the website, the emails, her face hardens. They've been using you your whole life, she says, anger tightening her voice. But this is a new low, even for them. My phone rings. Jackson from Legal at Work. I've reviewed those contracts you sent, he says without preamble. You're legally entitled to cancel everything. Everything? My voice sounds small. Every single vendor. You're the contract holder. Not Derek, not Brooke, not your parents. You. Emma's eyes meet mine. The wedding is in 10 days, she says quietly. 200 guests, I add. If I do this, I'll be the villain in the family story forever. And if you don't, Emma challenges, they'll know they can take whatever they want from me. The realization settles like stone in my stomach. My dignity has a price tag, and apparently it's exactly $25,000. My hand doesn't shake as I dial Crystal Ridge Events. Alan Martinez speaking. This is Harper Evans. I'm calling about my brother's wedding. A pause. Yes, Miss Evans. How can I help? I explain the situation, simply and without embellishment. When I finish, the silence stretches. I'm sorry that happened to you, Alan finally says, his voice softening. Family can be complicated. I haven't spoken to my brother in 5 years. What happened? I ask before I can stop myself. Similar situation. I worked myself to the bone helping him start his business. When it succeeded, suddenly I wasn't professional enough to be included. Alan clears his throat. Some people only value what you provide, not who you are. His words hit with a clarity of truth. What are my options if I need to cancel? I ask. The contract states a 30% penalty if canceled by the contract holder, he explains. Which would be you. I hadn't noticed this clause perhaps because I never imagined needing it. I like to keep our conversation confidential for now, I say, feeling a curious lightness spread through my chest. Of course. The understanding in his voice is unmistakable. Family politics. I get it. After we hang up, I open my laptop and create a new document titled Wedding Contracts. Methodically, I list every service I've paid for, every contract in my name, every receipt. The spreadsheet grows, row after row of financial commitments I've made to celebrate a relationship while my own was being discarded. For the first time since reading Brooke's text yesterday, I feel something other than hurt, the smallest taste of control, of agency. It's not satisfaction, not quite. But as I save the document, I recognize it might be the first step toward something better. My phone buzzes for the 4th time today. Mother's name flashes across the screen, her message appearing above the others. We need the final venue payment by tomorrow. No pleasantries, no acknowledgement of the elephant trampling through my life. Just another demand, as if I'm nothing more than an ATM with legs. Before I can set the phone down, it vibrates again. Derek this time. Brooke's parents are asking about the catering deposit. And then, moments later, from Brooke herself, can you send me the florist's number? Need to make a small change. I stare at the cascade of demands, each one more audacious than the last. Not one of them mentions my uninvitation. Not one acknowledges the knife they've plunged between my shoulder blades. Dr. Winters adjusts her glasses and studies me from across her office. The afternoon light catches the silver in her hair as she leans forward. Harper, this pattern has existed your entire life, she says, her voice gentle but firm. You've been describing it in our sessions for years. I nod, fingers tracing the leather arm of the chair. What would happen, she asks, setting her notepad aside, if you stopped enabling their behavior? The question hangs in the air between us, simple yet seismic. They'd have to face consequences, I whisper, the words feeling foreign on my tongue. For once. Something shifts inside me, a physical straightening of my spine, shoulders pulling back as if shedding an invisible weight. Dr. Winters notices it too, a slight smile touching her lips. That evening, I do something I've avoided for days. I call my mother directly instead of responding to her text. She answers on the second ring, irritation already coloring her tone. Harper, I've been waiting for you to transfer the final payment. I'm not sending any more money until we discuss my role in the wedding. I say, my voice steadier than I expected. A beat of silence then. After everything we've done for you, the familiar guilt trip, the well-worn path of manipulation. But tonight, something has changed. Name one thing, I say, surprising myself with the challenge in my voice. Name one thing you've done for me that wasn't actually for Derek. The silence that follows is profound, a vacuum where her immediate defense should be. In that pause, I hear the truth louder than any words she could offer. She hangs up without answering. $25,000 for the venue, Emma says, scribbling on the legal pad spread across my kitchen table. $8,000 for catering, $4,000 for the band. Her red curls fall forward as she bends over the growing list. Flowers, photographer, wedding cake, all in your name. Across from us, Jackson adjusts his glasses, reviewing the contracts I've laid out. You have every right to cancel these contracts, he says, tapping a clause in the venue agreement. There's a penalty, of course, but significantly less than the full amount. My boss offered me a personal day tomorrow. I tell them, pouring more wine into Emma's glass. She said to take care of myself first. Smart woman, Emma nods. Maria called, by the way. She wanted you to know her brother did the same thing to her last year. You're not alone in this. The realization washes over this circle of support I've built without even noticing. People who value me for who I am, not what I can provide. The next morning, I sit at my desk, phone in hand, a strange calm settling over me. The sunlight streams through my office window, illuminating the folder of contracts before me. I dial the first number. Crystal Ridge Events, this is Alan speaking. Hello, Alan, this is Harper Evans, I say, my voice clear and professional. I'm exercising my right to cancel as contract holder for the Evans-Mitchell wedding. A pause, then understanding. Of course, Miss Evans, I'll need to prepare the paperwork. There will be a cancellation fee of 30%. I understand. Please confirm the cancellation in writing. One by one, I move down the list. Greenfield Catering? I need to cancel services for the Evans-Mitchell wedding. Yes, I'll hold for your manager. Summit Photography? I'm calling regarding contract E-349. I need to cancel immediately. Garden District Florist? This is Harper Evans. I need to cancel the order for May 8th. With each call, a weight lifts. Each cancellation confirmation arrives in my inbox, methodically forwarded to a folder labeled documentation. By noon, it's done. The wedding that was never meant to include me now no longer exists. That evening, alone in my bedroom, something unexpected happens. A laugh bubbles up from deep inside me, genuine, almost foreign after days of tears and tension. It starts small, then grows until I'm holding my sides, the absurdity of it all finally hitting me. I grab my phone, scroll to a playlist I haven't touched in months, and hit play. Lizzo's Truth Hurts fills the room, and I find myself moving to the beat, dancing across the hardwood floors and sock feet. I just took a DNA test. Turns out I'm 100% that bitch. I sing along, voice cracking but spirits soaring. The collapse comes mid-twirl, me knees giving way, body folding onto the edge of my bed as tears flow freely. But these aren't tears of grief. They're relief, washing away years of accommodation and apology. When I wake the next morning, something has changed. The clarity and calm I feel aren't transient guests but permanent residents. For the first time in years, perhaps, ever, I'm breathing without the weight of family expectation crushing my chest. I've created a folder with all receipts and communications. I tell Jackson over coffee at my kitchen table. We're preparing for the inevitable fallout. Emma nods approvingly from the counter where she's setting up my laptop. Your email auto-response for family members is ready. Short, professional, and utterly final. I press record on my phone. This is Harper Evans, May 1st, 2025. Summary of events regarding the Evans-Mitchell wedding. My voice is clear as I document everything, creating a record even my mother couldn't dispute. Later that afternoon, I meet Alan at the venue. His sympathetic expression tells me he understands more than he said. I wanted to explain the situation fully, I tell him, handing over the final paperwork. He nods, placing it in a crisp envelope. They haven't responded to any of our calls. They're hoping I'll change my mind. I say, the realization no longer painful. Alan hesitates, then offers. I'll deliver the cancellation notice personally. Sometimes people need to see the consequences of their actions. As I'm leaving, my phone pings with a notification. A Venmo request from Derek sent months ago that I'd somehow missed. The memo line reads, "Thanks for funding our child-free wedding." I take a screenshot, saving it as the final piece of evidence. The truth always finds its way out, I whisper, tucking my phone away. Walking to my car, I feel the afternoon sun warm on my face. For the first time since this began, I'm not a victim but an architect designing a future where respect isn't optional but required. Days pass in a strange silence. My phone buzzes incessantly with notifications, but I don't respond. Derek, 17 messages. Mom, 23 calls. Dad, 3 terse voicemails. Brooke, a flurry of increasingly panicked texts. I place my phone face down on my desk at work and focus on the quarterly projection spreadsheet, numbers lining up in perfect, predictable columns. Behind me, through the glass wall of my office, life continues, colleagues laughing, printers humming, coffee brewing. 2 days until the wedding that isn't happening, and I'm the only one who knows it. Harper? My assistant pokes her head in. You have a visitor. It's Derek barrels past her, face flushed and hair disheveled. Gone is the carefree smile he's perfected over years of avoiding consequences. His eyes dart wildly around my office before landing on me. What did you do? He demands, voice elevated enough that heads turn in the open workspace beyond my glass walls. I straighten in my chair, clasping my hands on the desk. I stopped funding an event I wasn't welcome to attend. You can't just... Derek slams his palms on my desk, scattering papers. You promised. 2 of my colleagues appear at the doorway, Marcus from accounting and Jen from legal. They don't speak, just stand there, arms crossed. Behind them, I see Jackson on the phone, speaking urgently. You should leave, I say quietly. Not until you fix this, Derek's voice cracks. The venue, the catering, everything's gone. Mom is having a breakdown, Brooke won't stop crying. Security arrives then, 2 men in press uniforms who don't need to touch Derek to make their presence felt. Sir, you need to come with us, the taller one says firmly. Derek backs toward the door, pointing at me. You're ruining everything. You've always been jealous. You've always tried to make me look bad. As they escort him out, his final words echo down the hallway. You're dead to this family. I exhale slowly, hands trembling slightly as I reorganize the scattered papers. Jen approaches, places a gentle hand on my shoulder. We've got your back, she says simply. That evening, Emma shows me Brooke's Instagram post. A tearful selfie with the caption, Imagine having a sister so jealous she tries to sabotage your wedding. Family isn't always blood. Already hundreds of sympathetic comments, distant relatives and high school friends taking sides without knowing facts. Your mother called the Robertsons, Emma reports, scrolling through her phone. The Robertsons family friends for 20 years. She's telling everyone you're having some kind of breakdown. My phone chimes with texts from Aunt Judith, Uncle Martin, even my second cousin Terrell variations on what's going on and are you okay? And can't you just make peace for one day? I say nothing. Pour another glass of wine. Emma grins suddenly, turning her phone to show me a photo she just posted. The 2 of us at dinner last week, smiling genuinely. Caption: Supporting my friend through family betrayal. Sometimes the strongest people are the ones who finally say enough. Jackson sent a cease and desist letter regarding defamation, she adds. My boss texted his support hours ago. Take all the time you need. Our firm stands behind our people. Even Alan from the venue called to say he's been correcting the story when contacted. I told them the contract holder exercised their legal right to cancel. Nothing personal, nothing dramatic. The morning before the wedding day that isn't, my phone buzzes with a call from an unknown number. Brooke's father. Harper? Phil Henderson here. His voice is strained. Brooke's parent. We had no idea you were funding everything. They told us they'd been saving. I say nothing. Is there anything we can do? He asks finally. I end the call without answering. An hour later, a text from my mother. What will people think of us? Not, I'm sorry. Not, we were wrong. But, what will people think? My father's voice comes next, the first time I've heard it in days. Harper, let's talk about this rationally. There must be a solution that works for everyone. Derek's text arrives last. We were wrong to exclude you. Please come to the wedding. We found a backup plan. City Hall tomorrow at 2. We need you there. Each message rings hollow, focused entirely on appearances rather than genuine remorse. I read them all twice, then set my phone aside without replying. When my colleague asks about the situation at lunch, I simply state, I was uninvited from an event I was paying for. No embellishment, no emotion, just facts. That evening, a formal invitation arrives by email cream-colored background. Flowing script. Derek Evans and Brooke Henderson invite you to witness their marriage. City Hall, 2 p.m. When I don't respond, Alan texts. Just confirm they're using City Hall at 2 p.m. tomorrow. Small ceremony, reception canceled. I type back, thank you. Will you still be able to deliver the notice? His response comes immediately. Absolutely. As we discussed, I set my phone down and look out my window at the setting sun. Tomorrow, the truth will finally have its moment in the light. Not with drama or vengeance, but with the simple, undeniable weight of consequences finally finding their rightful owners. The city hall steps feel cold under my sensible heels. I stand across the street, watching the confused guests file in. Most wear expressions that match their hastily assembled outfits, bewildered, slightly rumpled, questioning. A text message wedding isn't exactly what they had envisioned when they'd marked their calendars for Derek and Brooke's dream day at Crystal Ridge. I check my watch. 1:57 p.m. 3 minutes until the ceremony. 3 minutes until I walk into a room full of people who have no idea I'm the reason they're gathering in this stark government building, instead of the elegant venue with panoramic mountain views I'd selected and paid for. The memory of Derek's text burns in my mind. You just don't really match the vibe we're going for. It's nothing personal. A passing businessman gives me a curious glance, and I realize I've whispered the words aloud, the bitterness leaking out despite my resolve to remain composed. I straighten my charcoal gray dress, simple, elegant, deliberately understated. Nothing that could be accused of outshining the bride. Inside, the scene is exactly as Alan described. A single sad bouquet of convenience store flowers adorns the justice of the piece's podium. 20-some metal folding chairs have been arranged in uneven rows. My parents stand near the front, mother continuously smoothing her silk blouse, as if proper fabric tension might somehow restore order to the situation. Derek and Brooke stand together near the window, their eyes darting to the door every time it opens. The tension radiating from them is almost visible, like heat waves rising from summer asphalt. I slip in quietly, nodding politely to several distant relatives who notice my arrival. The collective exhale from my family is audible even from the back row where I settle myself. Hands folded neatly in my lap. Crisis averted, they think. Harper has come to her senses. Mother rushes over, her pearls clacking against each other in her haste. Thank goodness you came to your senses, she whispers, the exact words I'd anticipated. Her hand grips my shoulder with unnecessary force, as if she might physically hold me in place should I consider bolting. We're family, I say simply, the words hollow as a dead tree. Derek appears next, bending close to my ear. We can talk about rent later, he murmurs, his eyes not quite meeting mine. I wonder if this is his version of an apology, or simply financial damage control. Brooke follows, offering an air kiss near my cheek, careful not to actually make contact. So glad you could make it, she says, her smile strained to breaking point. No acknowledgement of my exclusion. No genuine remorse. I simply nod. None of them notice that I haven't actually accepted their non-apologies or promised forgiveness. They see what they need to see: compliant Harper. Reliable Harper. Harper who won't make a scene. The justice of the peace clears his throat, and everyone takes their seats. The ceremony begins with all the warmth of a tax audit. Derek shifts from foot to foot. Brooke clutches her bodega bouquet so tightly that a few petals float to the floor. They exchange stilted vows about honor and cherishing, words that sound particularly ironic given recent events. They're midway through the ring exchange when the heavy oak door creaks open. Alan enters, his tailored suit and confidence stride drawing all eyes. He carries a cream-colored envelope identical to the one that had sat on my coffee table just days ago. The one that had contained a $25,000 check and all my foolish hopes of family connection. My heart pounds against my ribs as he walks directly to the center of the room. I apologize for the interruption, Alan says, his voice clear and professional. I'm Alan from Crystal Ridge Events. The confusion in the room is immediate. Guests exchange glances. Brooke's father half rises from his seat. "This is your official notice of breach of contract," Alan continues, opening the envelope and removing several official-looking documents. He hands copies to both Derek and Brooke, whose faces have drained of all color. "These are the cancellation penalties as outlined in your agreement. The total amount of $8,000 is due immediately to avoid further legal action." He pauses, then adds pointedly, "You should have treated your sponsors better." The silence that follows feels like the moment after glass, shatter suspended, dangerous, irreversible. Brooke's mother is the first to speak. "What is he talking about? What sponsors?" My mother steps forward, hands fluttering. "There's been a misunderstanding. Who was paying for this wedding?" Brooke's father demands, his voice cutting through the growing murmurs. For the first time since entering City Hall, I stand. Every eye turns to me, and I feel oddly calm, like I've stepped outside myself to watch this scene unfold. I say clearly, until I was uninvited by text message." The room falls completely silent. I can hear the ancient wall clock ticking away seconds that feel like individual eternities. "I didn't ruin your wedding," I continue, my voice steady. "I just stopped funding your lie." Derek's face contorts through a series of emotion: shock, anger, embarrassment, and finally, a dawning horror as he realizes what's happening. Mother stands frozen, her carefully constructed facade crumbling visibly. Father stares at his shoes. The justice of the peace, clearly eager to be done with this awkward situation, hastily pronounces them husband and wife. There's no applause, no celebratory cheers. Just the uncomfortable shuffling of feet and the rustle of jackets as guests make quick escapes. Several cousins and an uncle approach me, their expressions a mix of newfound respect and lingering confusion. Aunt Meredith whispers, "We should talk soon," with unexpected warmth. I decline multiple invitations to explain everything and clear the air. There's nothing more to explain. The truth has finally done what I never could spoken for itself. As I walk out into the afternoon sunlight, I feel the weight of decades lifting from my shoulders. Some people create scenes to be heard. I simply allowed the consequences of their own actions to speak at full volume. Wind chimes dance in the gentle May breeze, their melodic tones weaving through my backyard garden. 6 months have passed since that day at City Hall. 6 months of rebuilding, of growth, of careful tending to what matters. "You outdid yourself with these hydrangeas," Emma says, raising her wine glass toward the blue-purple blooms clustered along my garden path. "They're thriving." I settle into the Adirondack chair beside her, watching Jackson and Maria arrange platters of food on the patio table. These 3 people who stood beside me when it mattered most now gather weekly in this space we've created together. Chosen family. My solo trip photos finally uploaded, I say, pulling out my phone and scrolling to images of misty Scottish highlands and stone cottages. 2 weeks of nothing but hiking, reading, and deciding what I wanted each day. Emma swipes through them, pausing at one of me standing atop a windswept cliff, arms outstretched, face tilted toward the sun. "You look free," she observes. "My counselor says I'm making good progress." I admit, learning to prioritize my peace isn't selfish, it's necessary. Jackson joins us, setting down a tray of lemonade glasses tinkling with ice. Speaking of progress, I finally told my brother I won't be financing his 3rd startup attempt. His voice carries the same quiet certainty I've been cultivating. "Use that script you shared from your therapist." We raise our glasses in an impromptu toast. "To choosing your own family," Maria says, her smile genuine as sunshine, and to Harper, who showed us all how it's done. The conversation shifts as we eat, but I find myself reflecting on the diverging paths my biological family has taken. Derek and Brooke's marriage is struggling, no surprise given its foundation. My mother has called 3 times, each message carefully avoiding any acknowledgement of her role in what happened. "Just checking in to see if you're over it yet," as if betrayal were a head cold to recover from. What did surprise me was the letter from my father that arrived in yesterday's mail. 12 handwritten pages of genuine reflection and, most shocking, an apology without qualifiers. I've read it twice but haven't decided yet whether to respond. Some bridges might be worth rebuilding. Others might need to remain crossed. My phone buzzes with a text from my cousin Elaine. Planning my wedding for next spring. Could we talk? Would value your advice on avoiding family drama. I consider this for a moment before typing, I'd be happy to talk about healthy boundaries. Coffee next week? 6 months ago, I would have been asked for a check. Today, I'm being sought for wisdom. The difference feels significant. You seem lighter, Maria observes, studying my face. Less tense. She's right. The constant knot of anxiety that lived between my shoulder blades has loosened. My boss noted it too when he announced my promotion last month. Your confidence has transformed your work. Instead of financing someone else's dreams, I've established a small fund for the local women's shelter. The director's eyes widened when I explained it was specifically for women rebuilding lives after family betrayal. Many don't leave because they can't imagine surviving alone, she told me. Your story helps them see possibility. As twilight approaches, I grab my watering can and move toward the newly planted section of garden. Where dead wood and tangled vines once dominated, fresh green shoots now reach skyward. I work methodically, nourishing what's healthy, what deserves to grow. Sometimes, I say to no one in particular as the setting sun gilds everything in warm light, the healthiest thing you can do is stop nourishing relationships that poison you. Through my open windows, laughter spills from my kitchen where my friends, my real family, are preparing dessert. I turn toward that warmth, a peaceful smile settling on my face as naturally as breathing. The garden will be here tomorrow. Tonight is for celebrating how far we've all grown.